At least 1,500 people have now been arrested in Brazil after supporters of ex-leader Jair Bolsonaro stormed Congress. Ukraine's president warns of an extremely difficult situation in the Donbass region as Russia escalates its attacks on the salt mining town of Solda. Brazil's new president has vowed to punish supporters of the country's ex-leader Jair Bolsonaro after they stormed Congress. The rioters ransacked political buildings, pushing for the military to intervene and overturn the election he lost in October. Empty tents, scattered trash and overflowing garbage cans are all that remains. Authorities say now 1,500 people have been arrested since police regained control. President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva has met with state governors in the capital. There he blamed Bolsonaro for encouraging the riots, saying several of his speeches incited the attack. On Monday, thousands of people filled the streets across Brazil's main cities to condemn the riots.
What hurts me is the impunity of the people who want to end the democracy of our country, which we fought so hard to form. Our democracy is only 30 years old and I want it to be millions. I'm a bit afraid that other things might happen again, but this won't stop our fight. It won't stop me. I think that we have to keep resisting and show that this is not the way, that this should never happen again.
The biggest assault on Brazil's democracy in decades. News of Sunday's uprising sent shockwaves around the world. But perhaps what is most alarming are the echoes of the US uprising almost exactly 2 years earlier.
President Lula, who has returned here to the capital, Brasilia, shortly after those chaotic scenes, and who has been working inside the presidential palace throughout the day on Monday, gathering authorities, including governors from all Brazilian states who have accompanied him here to the Supreme Court, where he delivered a short statement condemning what he describes as acts of terror by those protesters, and promising swift and severe punishment to those involved. Lula, who also attempted to convey a message that order has been restored here in Brazil, but what we saw on Monday were more protests erupting in other parts of the country, including in Sao Paulo, Brazil's largest city, and in Rio de Janeiro, following the dismantling of those sit-in protests, signaling, of course, that things will be very difficult for authorities here going forward, because this is, of course, a profoundly divided country, and reuniting Brazilians will take significantly longer than the cleanup operation that has already started here in Brazil's capital. Annalise Borges from Brasilia for Euronews.
At least 17 people died on Monday in Peru as protesters trying to storm an airport at Juliaca clashed with security forces. The protesters were demanding the resignation of President Dina Boluarte. She's been in office since early December, when her predecessor was ousted. The police officers were shooting at us. I think there are 5 wounded and 1 dead. We call on Mrs. Dina to resign because we say you're a murderer. Many people are dying because of you. You must accept that the people don't want you. An official at Carlos Monge Hospital told a Peruvian TV channel the dead had gunshot wounds. In the last month, 34 people are known to have died in political clashes in Peru. Juliaca, located in the Puno region on the border with Bolivia, is home to many people from the Aymara indigenous group. Puno has been a hotbed of anti-government protests since this crisis broke out. A presidential welcome to Mexico for Joe and Jill Biden.
Good to see you again.
How are you?
Well.
of the President.
The fanfare at the National Palace in Mexico City marked the first visit of a US president since 2014. Mexican President López Obrador is hosting a three-day summit to discuss a range of issues.
This includes strengthening our supply chains to make the hemisphere even more competitive. We're also going to discuss our shared security, including our joint action to address the plague of fentanyl, which has killed 100,000 Americans so far, and how we can tackle irregular migration, which I think we're well on our way to doing.
Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau will join the first trilateral talks between the three North American countries since 2021. Mexican opposition groups held rallies in Mexico City with small demonstrations outside the US and Canadian embassies.
The situation in the Donbass region remains tense as Russian armed forces concentrate their efforts on the salt mining town of Soledar. Under pressure to deliver battlefield successes, Russia has stepped up its attacks on Ukrainian lines in the area. But Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky says he is confident his country will prevail. And what did Russia want to gain there, Zelensky says? Everything is completely destroyed. The whole land near Soledar is covered in corpses of the occupiers and scars from the strikes. This is what madness looks like. Shells of houses lie empty in the village of Mospenov in the Kharkiv region. Kostiantin Nemikin's wife and son have fled to Chernihiv, but he stays here, repairing houses for the elderly and trying to fix the damaged water supply system.
Belgium's government and the French energy giant Engie have struck a deal that will extend the life of the country's nuclear power industry. Engie's agreed to keep 2 of the 7 reactors it operates in Belgium running for 10 years, from November 2026. The two sides have been negotiating hard for months against the backdrop of energy uncertainty in Europe triggered by Russia's invasion of Ukraine.
Ceci concerne une production d'énergie qui est extrêmement efficace naturellement, qui est une forme d'énergie qui ne produit.
This energy production, which is naturally extremely efficient, is a form of energy which does not produce greenhouse gases and where the Belgian state will become an important partner. In the past, very often it was said that the decisions in relation to energy policy in Belgium are not taken in Belgium, but are taken in other capitals. With these decisions, the decisions will be made in our country. The deal represents a U-turn for the Belgian government that had originally planned to exit nuclear by 2025. Engie demanded a cap on the cost of processing radioactive waste as part of the agreement.
The first ever satellite mission to be launched from UK soil has ended in failure. A jumbo jet operated by the American Virgin Orbit company carried a rocket out of Newquay, Cornwall. The rocket ignited and appeared to be ascending correctly, but moments later word came from the company that there was an issue. Satellites could not be released from the rocket and were lost.
So much for the royal motto, never complain and never explain. Prince Harry's much-awaited biography hits the bookstores on the 10th of January, but it's already making waves for its harsh attacks on his family. Britain's royal family. Royal biographer Angela Levin told Euronews that she thinks it's gone too far.
Harry is saying all these hideous private things. He's been a man who has always looked after his own privacy. He will sue any newspaper. He hates the British press. He will sue them at the slightest opportunity if he feels they're beginning to get into something that he thinks is private. Yet what he said about his father and William and himself, I just think is absolutely shocking. Whether the royal family is good or bad, people like it or not, we all have a family, and I think his way of dealing with his own family at the moment is shocking.
Neither Harry's father, King Charles, nor his brother, Prince William, have commented on the recent revelations. But Harry will have more to say with a number of TV interviews lined up for the coming weeks.